Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well. And I'm happy that some of you already had your second immunization. Everyone should have all of the chisunim, and God willing, we will get out of this problem and be able to see each other in shul in good health and happiness. One of the points in the parsha that I have always wondered about is what happens to Aaron. Aaron plays almost no role except for the first three makos. And even then, the Torah only alludes to him in passing. And Rashi explains that Moshe could not perform the first three makot because of the fact that that would mean that he was ungrateful. He was ungrateful to the waters of the Nile that saved him from destruction. It allowed his crib to, so to speak, flow down the river. So therefore, Dam and Svardeya could not be brought about through Moshe. It's an enormous lesson in that. In just 1 minute, we'll talk about that. And Kinim, the lice, which came from the dust, well, the dust, the earth, is what covered up the Egyptian whom he buried. And therefore, he owed it also a debt of gratitude. So those three makot had to be performed by Aaron, but not be performed by Moshe, because if Moshe did it, that would be seen as ingratitude. Now, how do we deal with that? Well, the simple understanding is just as we are bound to have gratitude towards human beings, the basis for the Rambam explains, the basis for Kabedah Soficha Vesimecha is gratitude. They gave you life. They brought you into the world. They helped raise you. And therefore, they owed a debt of gratitude. Now, our attitude towards gratitude is that if what was extended to us was not 100%, we don't owe gratitude. That's why you see in many families, God forbid, tremendous resentment against parents. Because the parents didn't treat them 100%. But the sense of gratitude doesn't, that the Torah imposes upon us or proposes for us, is not dependent upon a ratio of how much good and bad that we feel towards what the others have done for us. The Gemara tells us that Rava said about a certain house, he said, a great house like this that had so much Torah in it, so we have to treat the house respectfully. The house is an inanimate object. But the house provided shelter for the study of Torah. It provided a home for people. So therefore, it should not be excluded from our realm of gratitude. So Moshe, out of gratitude, cannot perform the first three makos. So they're performed by Aro. Who did not have that personal gratitude feeling that Moshe should have had. Now, Chazal discussed generally our relationship to nature, our relationship to others is based upon this feeling of gratitude. The Gemara discusses that how much gratitude we should have to the people that harvest the wheat, that grind it and make flour out of it, that then take it, turn it into dough and knead it and bake it to produce bread for us. So we look at it as a commercial venture. Right? It's Angel's Bakery. So who feels gratitude towards Angel's Bakery? We complain the prices are too high, the bread is not tasty enough. The Torah says that we should have gratitude, because otherwise I would have to go out in the field and I would have to harvest the wheat and I would have to grind it and I'd have to turn it into flour and then create dough and knead it and bake it, process it. All of that is done for me. So there is gratitude not only towards people and not only towards nature, which we see in the fact that Moshe did not perform the first 3 makos. That's gratitude towards nature, because it was water, the river, and the earth that saved his life, so to speak. So he has to have gratitude towards it. But there's even gratitude towards inanimate objects. Chazal say, for instance, towards clothing. It says, Melech David, that was the parsha of Lech Lecha, we had the we had the Haftorah, right, by Avram Avinu. So it says, Melech David zokein bo bayomim vaychatzu b'bgodim v'lo yecham lo. David in his old age, and his old age was relatively young as compared to our time, Baruch Hashem. Jews have to get up every morning and say, Baruch Hashem, I'm still here. What good can I do today? What positive action can I perform? How can I help? So David was old. He couldn't get warm. By Chatzu B'Godim, they covered him in all sorts of layers of clothing. Below Yecham Lo, and it didn't become warm. So if you look at the posik on the surface, it's understandable. One of the blessings of old age is that one's body temperature, so to speak, declines. It's harder to keep warm. You got to keep the heat on in the house all the time. You don't anymore wear long, short sleeve shirts. Wear a sweater. Even when you're in the house. My English friends call it a jersey. But we won't get into that. But Chazal saw something different in it. They said, you know why he didn't keep him warm? Because he was disrespectful of clothing in his youth. When he found King Saul in the cave, he cut his garment. Generally, he was disrespectful of clothing. He didn't take care of it. So therefore, the clothing got even with him. In later life, they covered him with all sorts of layers of clothing, and he couldn't get warm. So that's the personification of an inanimate object. Clothing is inanimate. Clothing doesn't have any feelings towards the owner, right? But in the eyes of Chazal, it has a great relationship to the owner. The way the owner treats his clothing, that's the way the clothing will treat him. And therefore Moshe, since water treated him this way, so he could not be disrespectful to water. Since the dust of the earth treated him in a manner that saved his life, and he was able to bury and hide the Egyptian, so therefore he couldn't smite the earth. It has to be done, so it'll be done by someone who does not, so to speak, owe it the debt of gratitude that Moshe owed it. According to the Chazal, one of the ideas why Moshe was punished for striking the rock, instead of speaking to the rock, is because of the fact that why did he strike something? Why did he hit it? What did the rock ever do to him? God purposely told him to speak to the rock. Now, there's no question that Chazal did not feel that the rock felt the pain of Moshe's staff. But that infringes upon the personality of Moshe. That even on an inanimate object such as a rock, you don't hit it. That's the idea that we have in halacha of al tashchis. Can't destroy anything of value. I don't need it anymore. Boom. I'm going to get a new computer, throw this one out. There's nothing wrong with this one. So donate it. I can do something with it. Somebody else can benefit from it. You're not allowed simply to destroy things in the world, because everything has a purpose. So the depth of gratitude that we have is not only limited to only people or to only nature, but even to the most inanimate of objects. The rocks, the water, to the earth, the clothing. All of them are part of it. And that sets up the nature of the human being, that the person becomes a grateful person. A person that's grateful serves the Lord, serves other mankind, and serves the Jewish people, and is an example of holiness to others as well. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you tomorrow at this time. And then tomorrow also we have a Parsha class. Stay well and stay immune. Kol Tov Selah.